Welcome back to Open Line, talking about refugee resettlement here in Tennessee and across the country. With us, Lisa Sherman, Policy Director for the Tennessee Immigrant Rights and Refugee Coalition. Tom Castelli, a Legal Director for the ACLU of Tennessee. There was just a lawsuit that was dismissed that would have halted refugees seeking to resettle in Tennessee. That was dismissed just last month. And also Benyad Sharif, Iraq Muslim refugee. Several calls here. Let's go to Owen. Hello, Owen.
Well, yes, sir.
Go right ahead. What's on your mind?
That young man that I was just talking to, he is so kind, courteous, and polite. But I did my time out at Fort Bragg, where we have the School of the Americas.
Okay.
Well, now, young man, my big question is, look, my people are Polish and Native American. Daddy's from Oklahoma. He used to be from Tennessee.
Okay.
But why are we not training people to go back and look? We want them to have an education. We want them to have a better life. However, we've got people in Honduras and other places where they're not too friendly to their native people.
Right.
Why are we not training? Now, I'm not talking Civil War.
Why are we not training people to go back to their home countries? Is that your question?
Well, look, it's just, why are we not making these countries a better place?
Okay. All right, what do you think about what he's saying there? Who wants to take that?
I mean, that's certainly a right point. Making a world a better place, a safer place, more peace in the world will certainly lessen the amount of refugees that come into the Western world. There's no question about that. It's how are our politicians dealing with that, and how our leadership bringing peace into the world and bringing prosperity into the world. And I mean, if somebody, when our politicians want to make wage wars in those countries, there will certainly be consequences of people fleeing and people being in danger, and that's the sad, heartbreaking part about it. Of course, everybody would want peace and prosperity for everybody else.
You came from Iraq. Obviously, we know what happened in Iraq. We invaded Iraq. Your family helped our troops in Iraq. How many people would love to come to the United States from Iraq, and how many are unable to? And when people talk about vetting, and they want more vetting, you went through it. How much vetting is there?
Yeah, so of course, after decades of tyranny and in Iraq, my father was happy to be a part of the effort to place rule of law in this country and to be on the side of democracy. But unfortunately, things turned out to be very chaotic. And like you said, many people are fleeing violence. A lot of Iraqi people are in Jordan and surrounding countries in very, very bad situations that want to be resettled in a better situation, but are unable because of all the basically because of the vetting. There's so much vetting, and that creates a backlog of millions of refugees not being able to be resettled anywhere, and they basically get stuck in camps, living there for decades, where all progress is stopped for them, educationally or emotionally, in a lot of different ways. So I think there is definitely a very good amount of vetting. Lisa, of course, knows the details of all the government agencies, all the local government agencies that are involved in vetting those people. And of course, I went through all of this. It usually takes 5 to 6 years, but because with my father's work with the U.S. government, it took us 3 years to get through vetting.
And so your father worked with the government as we were fighting in Iraq. And we hear this word vetting. There's a lot of vetting. What does that mean? How are we vetting? And what does that word mean practically?
Yeah. Well, so as Tom was saying earlier, refugees are actually the most vetted travelers of anybody entering the United States. So anybody coming from any other country with a tourist visa, business visa, whatever kind of authorization to enter the country does not go through as much vetting as a refugee does. And so there's about 8 different federal government agencies that are involved in this process. They're run through 6 different databases. They go through several in-person interviews. They go through biometric checks. They check your school records, your hospital records. You go through health screenings. And the process is set up so that at any point in that process, if there's a flag that comes up, you're kicked back to the beginning. And so it errs on the side of caution, so that if there's any kind of flag that comes up, that person is not allowed to resettle in the United States. Of all the countries in the world, the US has the strictest vetting system. If you get any more rigorous or strict than that, you're essentially keeping all refugees out.
Mm-hmm. And so for those that are worried about terrorism, mm-hmm. you're saying, look at what they're doing. Mm-hmm. There is vetting.
If you're a terrorist, you would not enter the United States through the refugee resettlement process, because it is so extensive, so arduous, so lengthy. There is refugees, I mean, Benyad, it took him about 3 years, but there's refugees who are waiting for decades.
And what we're seeing across the world now is what? It's a massive, we're seeing a number of refugees that we haven't seen, since, as I said at the top of the show, since World War II. Mm-hmm. What's going on mm-hmm. across the world?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there's, you know, that's a really big question.
It is. That's a giant question. That's a big question, but it's a mess. Yeah. I guess the world's a mess.
Yeah,
and there are refugees all over.
But it's also sort of a part of history, right? We went through this during World War II, and now we're going through it again. It's sort of, history repeats itself. So there's always waves of people being displaced, of conflicts being waged. And I think, you know, people talk about seeing even an increase in refugees as climate change happens and islands are starting to disappear into the ocean and things like that. And so I think, you know, it is something that we should be concerned about, and we as the United States have the ability to give people hope and life. Literally, it saves lives.
Let's go to Gay on line 2. Hello, Gay?
Yes.
Go right ahead.
Yes, I'm not sure what was the gentleman's name, but salam alaikum. I just happened to have picked up a few phrases. Welcome to the United States. I'm sorry that you're being put through this nasty thing that Fox tabloid media has been manufacturing a so-called crisis, when there's just only a few people out there that are making the rest of the world a terrible place to live in. There's genocides going on from Myanmar to Syria, and our country actually is based on immigrants. This president brought in 2 immigrants to marry, and it just amazes, just frustrates me that this person thinks that he can cleanse the United States of refugees, and especially ones that helped our troops. Thank you for your families helping our troops to get through the Iraq mess over there, and I'm sorry for the loss that you have sustained. I wish you well and hope that things go better for you. Thank you to that attorney. I'm glad that there are people out there like you that understand that this is a ethnic cleansing that is going on by this so-called president and his tabloid Fox minders. Wow.
Okay, Gay, thank you for the call. Wow. She says this is an ethnic cleansing that's going on. She called out another network and everything. Wow. What do you think about what Gay is saying there? She thanked you for fighting this lawsuit.
Well, I certainly appreciate people thanking me. I mean, you know, I do think some of what she said, you know, there's a lot of valid points. You know, her rhetoric was strong, and that's her prerogative. But, you know, there seems to be an attempt to totally shut down refugee resettlement in the United States. And certainly that was the point of this lawsuit, is to halt it in Tennessee altogether. And, you know, when you look at the Muslim travel ban, I mean, it was aimed, it was, you know, that travel ban that affected you know, so many people trying to come over in mid-flight, as we've learned tonight, you know, was aimed only at Muslim majority countries. So to an extent, there is ethnicity at play here, and there is, you know, some targeting and And currently, most of the refugees, I think, in the world are coming from the Middle East and Africa, which are Muslim majority areas. I don't think it's that far afield to say that there's prejudice at play in some of the sentiments that's going on. And I think that's one of the roles, one of the reasons why we got to kind of push back and say, you shouldn't be making policy based on someone's religion or what country they're from. You should look at, do they deserve to get in our country? Can we help them? Are their lives in danger? And that's what the refugee program was for.
And Binyad, you said earlier in the show, you were on the plane, ready to come in, then the executive order is signed. You're in Cairo, right? And the executive order is signed, and you can't come.
Yes.
So take it from there. What happens after that?
After that, we were just shocked at what was happening. We didn't know what to do. We didn't know how to respond. But after a couple of hours passed, we speak with our sponsor in the U.S., we speak with our friends, and they also don't know what to do. They also don't know how to react. But what we did was we just spoke about what was happening. We basically just shared our story for people to hear us out, and we did not expect to come back to the United States, because the way the ban was set was after the ban was over, our visas would have expired. So we would have been stuck forever. But after sharing our story, after so many people called their representatives, after we got in touch with Turk, they created a campaign for us here in Nashville, Tennessee, and they got in touch with people called their representatives, and Senator Jim Cooper got on board and tried to help us, and he was able to create an exception for us with the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad to basically get us into the United States again. So I think despite being thrown away, despite not being light at the end of the tunnel for us at the time, we knew that there were people in the U.S. who cared about us, that they would call their representative, who would advocate on behalf of us, who knew of our struggles, who their ancestors had been through the same things, and that they would understand. And that's essentially what happened. In Nashville, we were greeted by hundreds of people in the airport, and it was some of the most amazing and heartfelt moments in our lives.
You have a very unique situation, and in many ways you're very fortunate. So how many people are back in Iraq that you know of who are waiting to come here and unable to for whatever reason?
Yes. I know specific people, friends and people who I've come to know over the years. I know of a certain person who was in Iraq, is right now in Iraq, who was pregnant, and when the pregnancy was over, there was a travel ban, and she was not able to come back here, and now her green card and her paperwork is over, and now she is like stuck there with no way to come back here, with how strict the situation is now. We have many people who have called us, tried to tell us of their situation and how they're basically in a similar situation where they're stuck there and cannot come here, and just how the process is taking forever because of the backlog.
All right, we're going to take a break. We'll come back, continue the discussion. If you want to give us a call, there's the number 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. Take a break. We'll be back right after this.